We started talking about miracles a few weeks ago, and we're back to continue because really there are so many of them that there is not enough time to talk about all of them in one program. And we may need to come back again as more miracles continue to take place. This is a program that is broadcast twice a month on the second and fourth Saturday of every month at this time. And at the end of the program, we do 30 minutes of transmission meditation. And we hope that you'll stick around and join us. You might really like it. It's a group meditation. It's free to anyone over 12 years of age. So, Dick, just to start off, what led to your interest in miracles?
I met a man who became a friend named Buddy Piper, and he was called the Modern Miracles Reporter. And he was chasing all over to track down these miracles that were in the news and see if they were real and if there was an explanation or not. And so he and I ended up doing a video about the modern miracles. And I thought it would be great if you and I talked about it during our show. Now, during our previous show, we kind of introduced the idea of the fact that there are unexplained events that have been happening over the last 30 years or so around the world, both religious and non-religious. And we talked about some of the Christian miracles, the miracles that have been happening in the Christian religion. Today, we're going to talk about some of the other religion miracles and some non-religious ones, so we can kind of finalize this, right?
Right, right. Yes, because that's what's so fascinating is that these miracles are appearing in all the great traditions of the world. We'll also mention some miracles that don't have any religious connotation in particular. And the interesting thing is that the mainstream media has picked up on this, not recently. This is from a bit earlier, like a couple of decades ago, I think, these quotes that we have up. The one that we just had before, we are living in an age of miracles. That was Time magazine as well. And here we have the past few years have been an age of miracles. Unimaginable events have succeeded one another as if the creator had whistled up a new world.
This was an issue completely dedicated to miracles, the whole Time magazine issue.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and the interesting thing is when they say as if the creator had whistled up a new world, I think that ties in very well with what we want to talk about.
I know. That's kind of our message, is that there's great hope for the future. And the world is changing for the better, even though it doesn't look like it sometimes.
Well, that's right. It's hard to see the good that's coming in the midst of all the crisis, right?
Right. So over the last 40 years, signs and things that are unexplained, that we can't explain, but that have been confirmed around the world, indicate hope. And that's the point of these miracles. They're to let us know that there is hope, that we haven't been forgotten. And they've been in all faiths and all cultures. They're for everybody.
They're for everybody. That's right. And so today we'll begin by talking about the religious miracles. And as you were saying, Dick, they are evident in all the major religious traditions.
Yes.
And what we want to say is that we believe there are explanations for what these miracles mean. Although the mainstream media has no answers, they can't explain them. And many times, in fact, the mainstream media will simply doubt that this is really a religious miracle and say, oh, it's just the way the light's hitting that, or it's, they'll try to explain it in a way that takes away all of that.
Yeah, or they won't report it at all.
But the interesting thing is that regular folks like ourselves have a very strong experience of the miraculous aspect of these things.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is also, in a way, a really telling sign, because it shows us that the hearts of people respond to what they experience. It's a very direct kind of response.
Absolutely.
So we want to talk about Benjamin Crumb. Dig, you were going to say some things about him and what he has to say about these miracles.
Right. Well, Benjamin Creme is the latest revealer of something called the Ageless Wisdom, which is an ancient living philosophy of life. The previous revealer of the Ageless Wisdom was a woman named Alice A. Bailey, who wrote about 20 books in the 1930s and 40s. Benjamin Creme has updated that information. You and I both knew Benjamin Creme. And from 1974 to 2016, when he passed away, he traveled the world without any pay, giving out the information that we're going to give out today and more. And the thing about Benjamin Creme, and the reason we want you folks watching to know about him, is because he was in touch with one of the ascended masters, the masters of wisdom, the lords of compassion. They have many names. The senior members of the spiritual hierarchy, the spiritual universe of planet Earth. And he was in touch with one of those masters and could receive communication from them, from him, his master. It was telepathic. It wasn't channeled, but it was very, very accurate. And so he would ask, when somebody would point out what looked like a miracle to him, he would check with his master, and then his master would either confirm or not confirm that it was in fact a miracle created by one of the masters of wisdom. Most often these miracles were created by either the Master Jesus or Mary, the master who was Mary, the mother of Jesus, or Maitreya, who was the teacher for the age of Aquarius. Jesus was the teacher for the age of Pisces. Maitreya is the teacher for the age of Aquarius. So it's his master that actually confirmed these miracles. And, you know, since we knew Benjamin Creme, he wasn't a fanatic at all. He was a very common sense guy. And it just made sense what he taught.
That's right. For many of us who heard him speak, there was a feeling of instantaneous recognition of this information, that it seemed just very, very common sense, as you say. And you mentioned Jesus being the teacher for the age of Pisces, and Maitreya, the teacher for the age of Aquarius. And we have this little graphic just to kind of talk about that for a moment, because we are in a transition between the age of Pisces and the age of Aquarius. And we won't go into detail right now. It's an astronomical fact, has to do with the movement of our solar system through the heavens. But the experience that we're having is a change of energies that are entering our world and the way they're impacting on us and what they're stimulating. And so we've just put up a few words there. So the age of Aquarius, what we're seeing is far more experience of cooperation. People want to work together in groups, and they are working together in groups to a much greater degree. And we're not saying people never did before, but the difference is the degree to which this is happening and the fact that it's taking place across all spheres of life.
And the degree to which it's successful.
Right.
You know, people marching in the streets saved healthcare in America.
There you go.
I mean, this cooperative effort has all the Aquarian energy behind it, makes it very, very powerful to work together in groups now. And working for justice is like a big, big deal right now. And that's part of the Aquarian energy. And it's ultimately going to lead us to peace. Now, I know that sounds hard to believe, but there it shows the teacher for each age. Every 2,000 years or so, we get a great teacher who brings the teaching for that time. You know, there's an old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And humanity is ready now for the next lessons to be taught, and Maitreya comes to teach those. Jesus taught the love of God. Buddha taught the wisdom of God. Well, now it's time for the latest teaching, and that's Maitreya is here to bring those teachings. And he will teach the will of God. You know, we pray, thy will be done, but we're not quite sure what the will is. And so Maitreya is going to fill us in on what is the will of God. And if we want to align with it, we can do so better when we know exactly what it is.
And I think that there's a great forward movement in terms of our ability to understand these concepts with more, I would say, perhaps less black and white thinking, more subtlety, more ability to understand nuance and ambiguity. That is to say, as our brains have grown, and our ability to understand the world around us through our sciences, for example, we have become aware of the incredible complexity, for example, just in nature. And we're still learning. I mean, there's so much we don't know, but we become progressively more and more aware of how much is going on in every kind of level, from the subatomic all the way up to the vast reaches of space. And so we have this, I think, increased perhaps humility in the face of the unknown, because we realize there's so much we don't know, but we are not afraid as we have been perhaps in past ages, because we have a much greater ability to grasp things, to think. Our minds are much more developed now. And so I think this makes it very interesting to think about what you just said, Dick, when you talk about the will of God. Perhaps in traditional religious teachings, the will of God is presented as something very black and white, like it's this, not that.
It's right or wrong. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think what we're going to learn in this coming age is something quite different.
Yes.
And something that will be very living, very alive.
That black and white thinking comes from the idealism that you see listed under Pisces as one of the main energies of Pisces. And it was the idealism of the desire for freedom that saved the world in World War II from Hitler and Mussolini and the Japanese generals, from the Axis powers. That idealism served a purpose. But
right.
Now it's time to move beyond that and start to see that instead of I'm right and you're wrong, I have some points to make and you clearly have some points to make. That kind of cooperative view of things, our conscious awareness is expanding, which is what you were just saying. Couldn't agree more. So we're ready for new teachings.
Right. And for the new teacher, exactly.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about Maitreya, and these miracles that we're talking about today are all signs that of this teacher, of the arrival of this teacher. And if you think back to what we know from the Bible, there were signs also at the time of the birth of Jesus of Nazareth. So this is a way for this kind of incredible event to be heralded or announced.
These are signs for hope and
Exactly.
confirmation that we are not alone.
That's right.
Now, the biggest miracle of all, in my opinion anyway, was when this teacher for the age of Aquarius appeared out of thin air, out of nowhere, in the middle of 6,000 people in Kenya. The woman there was teaching, and every week she would preach and she would heal people. She was a true healer. She was a Christian. And 6,000 people would come. They'd sit on the hillsides and listen to her and ask for healing. And he appeared out of thin air. They instantly recognized him as the Christ. He was dressed as they thought the Christ would appear. And people were healed, and then he disappeared. And we have Benjamin Creme to tell us about this incident, which was really miraculous. So let's go ahead and run that.
All right, here it is.
This is short, but it's wonderful.
The 11th of June, 1988, in Nairobi, a most extraordinary event. There's a woman in Nairobi called Mary Akatsa, who is a fundamentalist Christian. She doesn't believe in Maitreya at all. She believes in the Christ. She's a very devout Christian. She held this meeting just outside the town, and she has 6,000 followers. And we have photographs taken there showing them thousands, 6,000 people. And she said, God has spoken to me, and we're going to be visited by a great being, somebody very, very important. And suddenly, just beside her, stood this figure of Maitreya, dressed in a long white robe, with a white headdress, with a blue band round the headdress. And he had a fly whisk in his hand. And he's a tall figure, much taller than the people around. He's actually 6 feet 3 inches tall, and slim, wide-shouldered, and he spoke to the crowds, and they all said, ah. They thought he was the Christ. They immediately saw him as the Christ or Jesus, because they're Christians, you know, so they would think Christ Jesus. So, Jesus, Jesus, Christo, Christo, help me, save me. They were all there for healing. She's an extraordinary healer because Maitreya gives healing through that woman, Maitreya Katsa. There's a man called Job Matungi, who was the editor of the Kenya Times at the time, the Swahili editor of the Kenya Times, and he wrote it up in the Kenya Times. Did the Christ come to Nairobi this day? We got in touch with him, and he came over here and interviewed me for the story and so on, and he described it. He said it was quite extraordinary. He said the Saturday before, the week before, he was in the town, centre of the town, and he saw a star going round and round, like it wasn't an aeroplane, it was a star. And it was silently going round and round the town. He said it reminded me of the Star of Bethlehem, you know, that the wise men followed into the town. But he didn't know anything about it. He just saw it. He said, oh, my, this must be a portent. This must mean something very big is going to happen. But he didn't know what, and nothing happened except that, which was big enough. The week later, Maitreya Katsa said, a great being is coming, and just suddenly, miraculously, out of nowhere, came Maitreya. He spoke to the crowd in perfect, unaccented Swahili for maybe 15, 20 minutes, something like that. And he told Maitreya Katsa at one point to put her hand in his pocket. And she said in the pocket were 4 crosses made of gold, big crosses like that. And she pulled one out, and we have a photograph of her holding the cross up like that. Big cross, about 14, 15 inches high, like that, made of gold. And then he healed about 40 or 50 people standing in the area where he was. Then he said, now I have to go, but I will be back with, they said, a bucket full of blessings, but my master said he didn't say a bucket, but they translated it as bucket. He said a vessel. I will be back with a vessel full of blessings. And he said, I have to go. And somebody there, one of the group there, said, well, I have a car. Can I take you to the station? So he got in the car, but he only went about 100 yards. And they said, I have to get out here. So he got out of the car and walked away. And he took a few steps and just disappeared, literally disappeared again. That was all over the world. CNN, BBC, Japanese television. It just covered the world for 2 days. But, you know, it wasn't football. It was the Christ. It wasn't too important. And so it just disappeared. It just became nothing.
So if you'd like to see more information about that, just Google it. It took place on June 11th, 1988. As Benjamin Crumb was saying, it was reported by CNN, by the BBC, and many other major media. So the information is out there. Quite an amazing thing. And as he was saying, the star that appeared a week before that, this reporter, Jacob Matungi, he interpreted the appearance of the star that he saw circling around as a great portent. And so we want to talk about the Star of Bethlehem that appeared 2,000 years ago, which everyone is familiar with in the Christian tradition. And there is now another star, which it has been appearing worldwide. And our information is that this star also is a portent of this great event, of this teacher, Maitreya, being here. And I think, Ben, you're going to talk a little bit about these photos that we have, right, of the star? Dick, are you there? Well, I'll just carry on. So we have, this is a brilliant photo. This was
Okay,
taken.
now I'm unmuted.
Oh, you're back. Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. Yes, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say this photo was taken with a zoom lens. That's why you see as much detail as you do, the different kind of rings in it and colors. But if you were looking at this with your naked eye, so to speak, you would simply see a very bright star up in the heavens, much, much bigger than the other stars. But you wouldn't see these colors with your naked eye.
Right, right. And it can flash colors. If you zoom in a little bit, you'll see the flashing colors. And you really don't need to zoom to see the colors if it flashes. Usually it just twinkles white like the other stars. But yes, this one was taken over Boston, Massachusetts, and is just gorgeous. But this is very similar to 2,000 years ago, which you were talking about earlier, Sabina, when the Star of Bethlehem appeared to announce the arrival of the teacher for the age of Pisces. And that star moved through the heavens and led the wise men to the baby Jesus in Bethlehem so that they could greet the teacher for the age of Pisces. Well, there's a star up now because it's 2,000 years later and it's time for our next teacher. And this is one of the miraculous, beautiful photos of the star.
And you have some more photos. I think these are photos you took, right?
Yes, I took these video with my cell phone. My wife was in the kitchen looking at, it was in the evening, she was looking out the window. She said, "Is that Maitreya star up there?" And I said, "I don't know, let's go out and see." So we went out in the street and where we could see it clearly. And Benjamin Creme said that this is not really a star, it's a UFO. The space people are friendly, they're here to help. They're on a mission of mercy. There's several ways that they're helping us, and we can talk about that in another program. But he said that they're telepathic, and if you want to get their attention, you can speak to them. And if they're not busy with 20 other things, they might be able to respond. So I said, "If you're the star, would you please flash colors?" And I took out my cell phone, put it on full zoom, and took about 15 seconds of video. Then I loaded that into my computer and cut out the individual cells. And you can see here the beautiful shades of green and red and pink and shades of purple and orange. Beautiful, beautiful colors. And they just flashed in less than milliseconds. It flashed. So they did that and we could see the colors. And then I said, now you have to be patient because if you see the star, you can do this. I said, "If you're the star, would you please move?" And we waited, I don't know, 30, 45 seconds, and it went down and over and back. And I looked at my wife and I said, "Did that move or did I make that up?" She said, "No, that moved." So that's the star. And these are photos that I took. It just flashed these beautiful colors. There are actually 4 of them, one north, south, east, and west. So no matter where you are on the planet, you can see the star that is announcing the arrival of the teacher for the age of Aquarius. Our spiritual kingdom asked for this help from our space brothers and sisters. And just like the star over Bethlehem, that too was a UFO. Now that one was about 3 football fields big. And according to Benjamin Creme's master, these are about 5 footballs. They're huge, 5 football fields big. They're gigantic, gigantic stars, and they get their energy from the sun. But there's one, wherever you are on the planet, you can see one of them. Sometimes during the day, but always at night, if it's a clear night, you can see it. It's really wonderful.
It is wonderful. It's just an amazing thing to think that we've got this help that we're, as you say, we're not alone. There's a sense of being part of a team somehow.
Yes, it appeared about 20 years ago. And it will be there until Maitreya comes forward to humanity openly on worldwide television and radio. We'll talk about that later too. That's going to be a big event.
It sure is. Yeah, absolutely. So, and we're also going to talk about, before we continue, I just want to mention that if you want to find links to look at images of the star, or if you want more information about Maitreya's appearance in Nairobi, Kenya, you can go to the Share International Canada page on Facebook, and you'll find those links there.
Very good.
So we were mentioning earlier that these miracles are appearing in all the major religious traditions. So we have some examples here. In Judaism, there's a prophecy about a red heifer being born. Now, I believe usually the color of the heifers, is it usually white? It's definitely
They're
not
usually
red.
brown.
Brown, okay.
Right, right. But the Torah specifically describes exactly how this heifer will look.
Uh-huh.
That's born, this baby cow that's born, that will fulfill the prophecy and say that the Messiah is coming very soon. And when this red heifer is born, that's the sign that the Messiah is near. And not only was there a red heifer born, I mean, this was published in all the big magazines and so on, that fit exactly the rabbis and so on confirmed that it fit all of the descriptions of the red heifer. And now there have been two of them born, which is unheard of. There have been two of them born that fulfill the Jewish prophecy that the Messiah is nigh, that he is near and will be expected soon. Now in Islam, there have been several in Islam. We're gonna show a few more, but this is unbelievable. This Muslim baby, and we have photos. There are photos taken.
Right, but we can't show them. Yeah,
Pardon?
because we can't show them on the program because of copyright issues. That's why
Copyright issues, we can't show it. It's unfortunately.
But you can find photos on the internet.
Oh yeah, Muslim baby born holding a miniature Quran in his hand when he came out of the womb. I mean, it's just unbelievable. This baby was born and they're holding a Quran. I mean, talk about a miracle.
Yeah.
And so there have been miracles in every major religion, so that people know we haven't been forgotten, that this is a special time, and that prophecy is being fulfilled.
And so some of the other miracles in Islam are the word Allah found in nature in different places. I'm not familiar with the one about the sky, but I've seen photographs of the fruit and vegetables that people have been preparing to eat, to cook, and cut them open and see the seeds inside making this form, the shape of the word Allah in Arabic. And that's quite amazing.
And in the sky, it was clouds.
It was clouds. Okay.
Right, right. So like we said, there have been signs in every major religion. Wait till you see the Hindu one.
And in fish, do you know how that appeared?
No, I don't.
No, either.
I think it was the bones.
Okay, that would make sense.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look at the word Allah, we've got it up on the screen so you can see it. It's clearly the kind of shape that you can't just explain that as a random shape. It's not possible.
You can't accidentally make that.
Yeah.
Right.
So you were mentioning the Hindu miracle.
Right. There were statues, all the Hindu statues, a great prophecy, Hindu prophecy said when our statues, the Hindu statues drink milk, it's a sign that a great soul has descended, that great soul being Maitreya, the world teacher for the age of Aquarius. And statues around the world, Hindu statues around the world drank milk. Now, I know the woman who's holding this spoon up, this picture was taken, that was in a Hindu temple in Los Angeles, and she filled the spoon with milk and held it up to the front of the statue, and the milk disappeared. It looked just like the statue was drinking the milk. This happened all around the world, great big Hindu temples in England. In India, they ran out of milk because everybody was feeding milk to the statue. But this went on for 4 days. It was in all the news. CNN, ABC, all the networks covered it in 1995. And again, it fulfilled the prophecy that a great soul had descended for humanity. So every religion has had really significant miracles happen to provide hope.
And you know, the offering of milk to this a statue of the god, one of the gods in Hinduism, that's part of the way that people worship. So it's absolutely part of the tradition that you offer milk or other, like rice, other types of nourishment, flowers, but that the milk would disappear, that it would be literally drunk. That never happens. Clearly, it's not normal. So it created a huge response for people.
We were talking about the media early, and the media were trying to say that the statues absorbed the milk. Well, this is a stone statue. I mean, it can absorb the milk.
Right.
So they're looking for some logical explanation. And in fact, miracles are just science that we don't understand yet. And the masters are master scientists. They understand all the sciences of our planet. And so they can manipulate energy and make it work any way they want to. And so when they create these miracles, it's easy for them to do. They have to put out some effort, but it's easy for them to do. We just don't understand it because we don't have the science that can explain it yet. So to us, they're miracles, unexplained events or miracles.
Yeah, and if you think, if somebody from 2,000 years ago was suddenly transported to our time and they saw us talking to each other using Skype or Zoom, to them that would be miraculous, and they would have no way to explain it. So I think it's similar, you know.
Yep, very much so.
Yeah. Now, Maitreya himself has said that those who search for signs shall find them, and that the world will be flooded with such happenings that the mind can never comprehend it. So this is really what we're seeing. There are many more miracles. We're clearly not talking about all of them, just a few examples.
Right.
Last time that we did the show on miracles a few weeks ago, we talked about appearances of the image of the Virgin Mary in different places, on the side of a building. We talked about crosses of light. So there are just numerous miracles taking place all over the world. And I'm sure many people have seen these themselves. So it's not something that only a few are privileged to see, but really these are all over the place.
Maitreya said that he knew there were people that would need signs to feel reassured and to start to realize something really special is happening. And he said, those who search for signs shall find them. I will provide them.
Right.
And he certainly has. We were talking about Life magazine, Peter Bonaventure, the editor of Life magazine, another one of his really wonderful quotes. He said, it would seem that there's a real flood of spiritual phenomena taking place all over the world. And he's absolutely right. And that's the spiritual phenomena we're talking about today, are all these miracles. Right.
And next, we're going to talk about some light blessings. So here you see on the left a photograph of a stone. It's like a marker with a little carving on it of a religious figure. And then there's a beam of white light sort of arcing down next to that. Now, that's a photo I took in Germany, excuse me, and that was quite a while ago in the 90s. I went there to visit a religious teacher. And in the evening, I was just on a bike ride through the little river valley, and I stopped and took some photos. Now, when I took the photo, that light wasn't there. I just took a picture of that stone marker because I liked the little sculpture on it. But when I developed the picture, I saw that beam of light, and that was confirmed by Benjamin Crumb's master as being a blessing, a light blessing. And then the other picture that we see on the right, that's a picture of Yvonne Lewis, who's been on the program a few times, and she's going to be back in 2 weeks when we talk about encounters with Maitreya. So here we see a photograph of her meditating. Now, this was when she was doing transmission meditation, which we're going to do at the end of today's program. It's a group meditation. And in these times of pandemic, people are doing it using Zoom. Instead of going physically to sit with each other, each person is at their own home and they connect using Zoom to other people. So that's why we have a picture, because somebody could, if you record it, you can then look at it and see. So here you see a light blessing above her head. On the picture, it's a bit to the left of her head. Now, that's clearly another blessing. It's not It's not the lamp. The lamp is below that. So
Right. Right, and
that
the
was on.
angle of the light isn't from the blinds either. It's up higher.
It's up higher. That's
Yeah,
right.
and the person that took this did not see the light blessing. They just took the picture. Then when they looked at it, they went, "Wow, wow."
That's right. And that was March 14th of this year. And you can find that photo in Share International Magazine if you're interested.
Many of these light blessings have been published in Share International Magazine over the decades, and Benjamin Krem's master has confirmed that they are blessings that show up after the fact that people didn't know were going on at the time. Yeah, really wonderful stuff, and totally out of nowhere.
That's right. And so now we're going to move on to another blessing or miracle. And this is about what we call the hand of Maitreya. In this video, you're going to hear Benjamin Krem talking about the hand of Maitreya. You can see right now that he's holding up a card that has a photograph of a hand on it. And he's going to explain how that came about.
This is a great story.
Yeah.
It's the most extraordinary story. This appeared in a flat in Barcelona. I've never been in the flat, but it's in the mother of a colleague of mine in Barcelona. She owns the flat and she has two bathrooms, one for her guests and one for her own. And she went into the guest bathroom one day and she saw a hand like this in the bathroom mirror. And she thought the cleaner had been very careless and had not, somebody had put their hand on the mirror and not wiped it off. So she wiped it off, thought no more about it. And then the same hand appeared on her own mirror, in her own bathroom, in the bathroom mirror. And when that happened, she thought, oh my goodness, what have I done with the other one? This might be important. I'd better tell my son. So she told her son, and he photographed it. He got his father to photograph it, and then he photographed it. And then he got in touch with me. I asked my master. He said, yeah, it's the hand of Maitreya. He's given it to enable whoever wants to use it to invoke his help. He said in one of the messages that he gave through me, my help is yours to command. You have only to ask. And this allows anybody who believes this story even a little bit to invoke the help of Maitreya for healing, for help in whatever situation. It is only restricted by our karmic condition, by the law of cause and effect. If our karma allows it, so his help is allowable. And that hand is not an ordinary imprint. He didn't put his hand on the mirror. That hand is thought onto the mirror. It is a thought form imprinted on the mirror. As you can see, it's a total three-dimensional hand, like a photograph. It's not, if you put your hand on a mirror, it's just where you touch it, it will make on the dust of the mirror, it will make a few little marks. But there, it's a total three-dimensional, just like a very accurate photograph of a hand. This is thought by Maitreya onto it's a gift to the world before we actually see him in the world. It's the nearest he can come to everybody and the way he can help everybody if they invoke his help.
And we have given a link to that hand, right?
Yes, in the chat. That's
yeah,
right.
In the chat, there's a link to that hand. Here's the thing. I would suggest, I don't want to contradict Benjamin Krem, but I would suggest, even if you don't believe anything, just ask the hand for something that you need. Now, we're not talking about a red Chevy or something like that. We're talking about something for yourself or somebody else that might need help, and just see what happens. Just try it and see what happens. It has never not worked for me. I've used it. Somebody said, well, I don't use it very often. They told Benjamin Krem, I don't use it very often because I know Maitreya is busy and I don't want to bother him. And Benjamin Krem told his master that, and the answer came back, I gave it to you to use. Please use it. So this is as close as he can come to us until we come forward. Now, there's no energy in the paper or in the card. The energy is you looking at the hand, and that gets Maitreya's attention. And then when you ask for something, if it's within karmic law, he will give it to you. It's never not worked for me. I used it once. One of my daughters was having trouble. She's married, having troubles. And I asked Maitreya to help her with her problem if it was his will. And she called me the very next day to tell me that problem was gone. Now, I mean, that's just instant response, you know. So Maitreya genuinely cares. He wants to help us. He loves us unconditionally. He doesn't judge us. He loves us. The masters don't judge us because they were us. They went through human evolution ahead of us. People like Confucius and Krishna and Jesus and Mary and Joan of Arc is one of the great masters of wisdom. They've had every problem we've had. You know, they've killed people, they've been killed. They've hurt people's feelings, they've abandoned people, they've been abandoned. They know every single problem we're going through. So they know what it's like to be us. They don't judge us. They just love us and want to help.
And you know, one other thing that you mentioned earlier, Dick, is that the masters are extremely practical. So
Yes.
That also speaks to the fact that if Maitreya has given us his handprint to ask for help, to ask him to lend a hand, he really means it. It's a genuine offer,
Yes.
and a very practical offer.
Okay, now we'd said there were non-religious miracles. Now, some of these happened a few decades ago, but they were huge, unexpected things that happened. Freedom unexpectedly breaks out. South Africa. South Africa had apartheid, which is a program where the minority whites ruled over the majority blacks in South Africa for a long time in a very cruel way. And Nelson Mandela was thrown into, one of the leaders was thrown into prison. He was in prison for 28 years. He was there so long people forgot he was alive. Well, he was a great guy. He established a good relationship with his guards and so on. Maitreya appeared to Nelson Mandela and told him to write a letter to the president of South Africa, de Klerk, asking him to set him free. And Mandela laughed. He said, I can't even get the attention of the head of the prison. Okay, but I'll write the letter anyway. Well, he did. De Klerk said he got the letter, and Maitreya appeared to de Klerk. And the way de Klerk puts it, God told me to set Nelson Mandela free. And he did. He set Nelson Mandela free after 28 years. And then he had abolished apartheid, got rid of it. I mean, out of nowhere. Nobody ever expected this to happen. And then to top miracle of miracles, Nelson Mandela, a black man in South Africa, was elected president of South Africa after being in prison 28 years. I mean, those are miracles. There's no doubt about it. Nobody expected them. Same thing happened in Berlin. The Berlin Wall, been there for decades. People were killed trying to get over it to see their relatives. And all of a sudden one day, people said, that's enough. They got out their axes and their picks, and they took into that wall and started knocking it down. And the military didn't do anything. They just watched.
You know, Dick, I remember that. I remember the euphoria that we felt watching this on our TV screen news, because it was this feeling of something that had been considered impossible, a barrier between people coming down. And it was so exciting. The elation that we felt was incredible.
Yes, people sitting on top of the wall, jumping over the wall, embracing their relatives on the other side, and nobody was harmed. And this was totally unexpected. Out of thin air, all of a sudden, people took down the wall and nobody did anything about it. And then another one, when Ronald Reagan was president, Gorbachev said, I want to meet with you. We need to talk about disarmament and other things. And they did. And Gorbachev declared perestroika. Now, at that time, the Soviet Union was this huge Eastern bloc that was in a Cold War with the Western nations. And he completely disbanded the Soviet Union into separate countries. And that's ended the Cold War. I mean, it's really remarkable. So,
Yeah.
I mean, nobody expected the Cold War to end. Nobody expected the Soviet Union to break up. These are all things that came out of thin air, clearly non-religious, miraculous events.
And I think what it speaks to is that uh, we should never think that what for us right now is unthinkable will not happen.
Good point.
Yeah, so anytime the unthinkable can take place.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's a great point.
yeah. And so we want to just sort of wrap up this part of the program by talking about Maitreya's priorities, because he's the teacher for this coming age, the age of Aquarius. And he's extremely practical, as we were saying before. And his immediate concerns are for people's needs on a physical level: food, water, housing, healthcare, education, the absolute essentials. And these are also enshrined in our Declaration of Human Rights at the UN. So these are things we know everybody needs. But the fact that for Maitreya, these are the priorities, I think is really important, because it tells us that a great spiritual teacher who talks about love actually means it at a very practical level. Because what is more loving than to make sure that everybody has enough to eat and drink? It has to start there.
Absolutely. And he's not, he doesn't come to dabble in religion. He doesn't come to start a new religion. He doesn't bother himself with religion. He says, if you're involved in a religious pursuit and it's working for you, then I suggest you continue to pursue it. But he doesn't come for that. He comes for basic needs of humanity, because until those needs are met, nobody can think about any higher priorities, and everybody has a right to healthcare, education, housing, and food. And we need to heal the planet, or we are going to lose everything, including ourselves and the planet. This planet would have to start its evolution all over again. And you can imagine what a setback that would be, not just for our planet, but for the solar system, which is a system of its own, has its own plan. Right. So we need to heal this planet. He also says, guilt does not serve you. I come to remove guilt and fear, because when we're afraid, all kinds of misinformation hits the world. Look at what's happening with the fear of the pandemic. There's tons of misinformation out there about the vaccines, about the pandemic, about the whole thing. Fear creates misinformation, and fear doesn't serve us either. Fear is an animal instinct that is there for the preservation of the animal kingdom, and for our own preservation if we're threatened. But beyond that, guilt and fear serve no purpose.
Yeah, they cloud our minds and,
yes.
and get in the way.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. And so we want to talk about something that we call the Day of Declaration, because Maitreya is going to announce himself publicly. And this will happen using our media, radio and TV, via satellite. And it's something that we have been told by Benjamin Creme is going to happen. And so it's kind of an amazing thing to envision, to imagine that this great teacher is going to speak to everybody. But there are things that are going to be very special about this. For one thing, when he speaks to us, he won't use his voice. So, for example, if you're watching him on TV, you'll see his mouth move, but you won't hear the sound coming out of the TV, but you'll hear him in your head telepathically. Why? This is so everybody hears him, because not everybody has access to a TV or a radio, for that matter. So this will be a way that he can communicate with absolutely every single person who's awake at that time. And he'll speak to people in their own language. So I'll hear him in English, but someone living in Delhi will hear him in Hindi, or someone in Moscow will hear him in Russian, for example. So each person will hear him in their own language.
Right. And each person will hear him at a level they can understand. Those with a PhD, with a great vocabulary, will hear him one way. Those without any formal education will hear him another way. We'll all hear him say basically the same thing, and we'll all hear it in a way we can understand it and in our native language. I mean, this is going to be really special, really miraculous, because you're not going to hear anything from it out of the TV or the radio. You're just going to hear him in your head. You'll be looking at each other going, he's not talking, but I'm hearing him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
Go
then
ahead.
the other part will be the love that will be, well, love always is streaming out of him to all of us, but on this occasion it'll be much, much more potent, and we will feel it so strongly. Benjamin Crumb has said we'll feel as though we are being embraced by this energy. It'll be so strong.
Yes. You'll feel the love of God in your heart like you have never felt it before. He, like Jesus, he embodies the love of God, and he's just going to flood the planet with it in a way that we'll all feel it very, like we've never felt it before, very powerfully. That'll be the second way you know this is the teacher for the age of Aquarius.
And then the healings, right? That's the third way that we'll know it's him, because thousands of people will be healed miraculously while he's speaking to us. All over the world, this will take place.
Right. And the press, after he's done speaking, the press will report that hundreds of thousands of healings have been reported while he was speaking. And in those three ways, you'll know that this is the teacher for the age of Aquarius. He's here to help. It'll be this is important. It will be a very individual experience of him that we'll each have. We talked a little bit about that earlier. We're going to hear him in our way that we will understand him. It'll be very individual. And once you know this is the world teacher, then we each have an individual choice to make. We have free will. Our free will is sacred. The masters will never force us to do anything because they honor God's free will, which has been given to each of us. So then we will each have to decide if we want to follow his suggestions or not. Some people, a third of the people, Benjamin Crumb's master said, basically the way it'll probably go is about a third of the people will say, you know what, these suggestions are making sense. I want to help. How can I help? Another third of the people are going to say, I don't know about this guy. I'm going to wait and see. And another third are going to say, Antichrist, Antichrist, or whatever. And they're going to say, I don't want anything to do with it. And then over time, the tree is known by its fruit. And over time, they will see that nothing he does is anything but good. And that all he does is love us and want to help. And over time, people will join in. But he says, if you look at the screen right now, he says that there are about 2 billion people who are ready to respond. And that's more than the critical mass needed to begin turning life on this planet around.
Right. And I mean, people are already working to turn things around.
Yes.
It's already starting and taking place, but this will be an enormous push. I mean, a big, big change in terms of how that process is going to speed up.
Now, during this day of declaration, I have to say this. During this day of declaration, he's going to give us each visions. We're going to see in our mind's eye the past and where humanity lost its way from God's plan. He's going to show us that. And then he's going to show us, he said this, and then he's going to show us the brilliant, loving, cooperative, free, just future that humanity has in store if we will follow his suggestions. And we'll see it in our mind's eye. We'll see this wonderful society of brothers and sisters worldwide working together in cooperation, sharing the goods of the planet equally so that nobody goes without. We'll see that in our mind's eye, and he will do that to inspire us to want to help.
Wow, that's going to be tremendous. I mean, just if you think about what we see around us today, where you have some people jetting off into space and other people don't have enough to eat, it'll be such a contrast. That experience will be amazing.
This has never happened before in the history of humanity. Can you imagine how fortunate we are to be here now for this event? I mean, I almost cry when I talk about it. I'm so touched that I get to be here when this is happening. You know why we're here? We're here because we can make the changes. We can handle the stress that's going on right now, and our hearts are there for us to help change the world. That's why we're here, I believe.
Yeah.
That's why we're on the planet right now. Just like my parents were here to end World War II and save the world. And they did their job. That generation. Well, our generation and the younger folks that are here to turn the world around. They've already started, and this is going to be huge.
Yeah, that's right. And we have a short video here just to talk a little more about that.
About everything, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, this is good.
Millions are suffering from a global economic collapse. Yet the world is filled with signs and miracles and a huge increase in UFO sightings. Are these signs of a new time? According to author and futurist Benjamin Creme, yes indeed.
And this time can really be seen as a time in which we are experiencing the birth pangs of a new civilization. The personal name of the great being who holds the office on this planet of the world teacher is Maitreya.
This is not your average religious leader.
Absolutely not. And he says, I have not come to found a new religion. People should continue to evolve within the framework of their own tradition, whatever it happens to be. I have come, he said, to teach humanity the art of self-realization. He says, when you share, you recognize God in your brother. That all of us are spiritual beings, souls, in incarnation in physical bodies, and that the soul is aiming to work out its divine purpose through each of us as individuals.
Every passing day reveals new events confirming wonderful changes taking place worldwide. We invite you to be in constant awareness of all the latest news by visiting the Share International website at www.share-international.org.
This is indeed a unique time in the whole history of the world.
And it is.
Yeah, that's right.
That's why the miracles.
Right.
To tell us it's a unique time.
All right.
So that's all right. Now we mentioned that Benjamin Creme had books. You want to talk about this a little bit, Sabina?
Well, just to say that there are 4 of his books are available for free download at share-ecart.com. Wonderful books, very inspiring. And so if you're interested in this information, please do download them and take a peek. And you can also buy books, the other ones that aren't available for free download at the same place, share-ecart.com. And we'll just put up our links here. The one that was mentioned in the video, share-international.org. There are also the videos of Benjamin Creme speaking are on Share International on YouTube. And so there's a lot of information. The magazine that we've been talking about every now and then, Share International, published 10 times a year, no advertising. And it links this information with current events and shows really how the two are connected. As well as having a lot of inspiring material, an article from Benjamin Creme's master each time as well. So a really good read.
It's a wonderful read. And Benjamin Creme has a question and answer section in each issue as well. If you want to keep up on the latest of good things happening in the world and on the latest with Maitreya and the Masters, subscribe to Share International magazine. It's very affordable. Share International tries to keep everything affordable, the books by Benjamin Creme, the magazine, so that everybody can get one if they want.
That's right. No, it's not about the profit motive. It's about just covering costs, basically. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that we were going to do a demonstration of transmission meditation. This is a new meditation that Benjamin Creme was asked by his master if he would be willing to introduce this group meditation to the world. And so in the 40 years that he traveled around the world talking about the teacher for the age of Aquarius, Maitreya, he also talked about transmission meditation and that it's a group meditation. A group is 3 or more people. And people do it in their homes. It's free of charge. Somebody agrees to host it for friends living in that area. And they meditate for an hour, hour and a half. Some groups go 3 or 4 hours. Depends on how much you've meditated in the past and how much time you can devote to it. But it's a meditation for busy people. You know, you do it once a week, twice a week. Some groups do it 3 times a week. My group meets once a week. And so you can do this transmission meditation. It's different than the individual meditation. In the individual meditation, we're basically downloading energy from our own soul. The Ageless Wisdom says you can picture the soul as a multi-pointed white light about 6 inches above the top of your head, connected to your mind and your heart by golden threads. Well, in regular meditation, that's the energy we draw on down through our chakras from our soul. Transmission, the reason transmission meditation is so much more powerful and special is because the energy comes from the masters of wisdom. It comes from our spiritual kingdom. And so when each group meets, and they meet at the same time, same day, each week, the masters know exactly where the group is and when it will meet. Then when you start the meditation, you say the great invocation, and that signals the masters. It invokes them. It lets them know you're ready to meditate. And they start sending their energy down through our chakras and then out into the world. They use our chakras to step the energy down so it's more easily absorbed by humanity. They're using our chakras. That's how you're serving the world doing this, because it's 2 karmas, it's 2 yogas, Laya yoga and karma yoga, the yoga of service to the world and the yoga of the growth of the chakras, spiritual growth. You can't have this tremendous energy from the masters going through your chakras without experiencing tremendous growth. Benjamin Krem said, 1 year of earnest transmission meditation is equal in spiritual growth to about 10 to 20 years of any other individual meditation. And that's because the energy comes from the masters. They see our light from our chakras, and they know exactly how much energy everybody can take. And so they know how to do it without hurting us. And so when you do transmission, they send as much energy as your chakras can handle, and then they send it in the world. You don't want to send it anywhere because you don't know where it's needed. You may think, well, I'll send energy to the Middle East for peace. For all we know, the masters are pulling energy out of the Middle East for peace. So don't send it anywhere. Let the master scientists send the energy out. You just focus at the Ajna center, the chakra right between the eyebrows, not up here in the middle of the forehead, down here between the eyebrows. That's the Ajna center. And you just focus there with your eyes closed. And when your attention drops, you think Om. Don't say it out loud. That's a chant. That's different. It's Om. You just think it. Om. And the O sets up a vibration in your heart chakra and your throat chakra. And the if you go you'll feel your head buzz. That's because it sets up a vibration in the Ajna center and the crown center at the top of the head. So you think Om a couple times, and boom, it'll pop your attention right back to the Ajna center. You'll know your attention drops because your head will drop, or your eyes, even though they're closed, you'll be looking at the floor. Then you know your attention has dropped to your solar plexus and you want to bring it back up.
Or you'll know that your attention has dropped because suddenly you're thinking about your laundry or something else.
Yeah, you can't stop the brain from thinking. That's its job. But the idea using Om is to rise above the monkey mind is chattering away down here, and you're rising above that. It's like a movie that's playing that you can't stop, but you're not watching it. You're not paying attention to it.
Right.
That's what the Om does. It rises you above the chattering mind so that you're in that still, quiet place above it.
And the interesting thing is that you don't need to believe any of the things we've been talking about in order to do. It's simply a flow of energy that by aligning and putting your attention here at the Ajna center, you will enter into it. It'll flow through you.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, we recommend you try it and see if you like it. Now, you do need to do it with 2 other people. So you can either meet in the same place and sit down together and do it together, or these days, because of the pandemic, many people are doing it using their technology to connect with each other. Zoom is one favorite way to do this. And you saw, when we talked about the light blessings, you saw a photograph of Yvonne Lewis meditating and a light blessing in that picture. And she was meditating using Zoom to connect with other people. So there are links in the chat for different Zoom meditation groups. If you're interested, you can connect with them. And, you know, it's just very accessible and very easy.
You can also link with friends just by visualizing them, because that energy travels and will link up your group if you visualize them while as you begin to meditate. And like Sabina said, you don't have to believe in Maitreya. You don't have to believe in anything to do transmission. It works. It's like gravity. It works whether you believe in it or not. Just try getting away from gravity. I mean, space is the only way. So it works if you have a spiritual tradition. Transmission meditation will support that tradition, we are told. And if you don't have any spiritual tradition, transmission meditation can be the beginning of one for you, just by serving the world through transmission meditation. It's a wonderful service.
Yeah, so it's really important to know that it doesn't compete with any other practice you might have. It will support it.
This was started as an experiment. And Benjamin Krem, after about 10 years, he asked his master, he said, "How's the experiment with transmission meditation going?" And his master said, "It's working beautifully." So it's really making a difference. It's stepping down the master's energy, which they're always sending anyway, but it's bringing it to a lower vibration so it can be more easily absorbed by life on the planet, including us. And I guess it's working really, really well. So you can really serve the world by doing this.
And there are groups all over the world. Literally.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, how do we start the meditation? We start it by saying a great mantra called the Great Invocation. And so that's what we'll do today now. We'll say this together, each of us, wherever we are. And then as soon as we finish saying it, we'll just make sure our attention's focused there on the Ajna Center. And we'll meditate for half an hour. I'll set the timer. And you can, of course, continue meditating for longer, but after half an hour, we'll end our Zoom broadcast.
If you download that free transmission meditation book, you'll see the Great Invocation in there. And what you do is there's a visualization, and it will describe the visualization. We're not going to take the time to do that right now, for each verse. And so you pause about 5 seconds in between the verses so that you can visualize it and then move on to the next verse of the Great Invocation. And you want to say it in a rhythmic way, kind of a sing-songy way, because that's how you say mantras, because the sound as well as the rhythmic energy, they both create the invocation. They invoke the attention of the masters of wisdom, of the spiritual kingdom. So that's what we'll do.
Okay. Dick, I'd like to say it this time.
Great.
So I'll go ahead and, yeah, we'll just go ahead and start.
Yeah, don't expect any visions or anything. Just do it to serve the world, and you will get growth out of it.
And just another comment about energy. Some people feel the energies that flow through them. Other people don't feel the energies. That has nothing to do with whether it's working or not. And it's simply because each of us has a physical body that may be different from others, and our sensitivities are different as well. So for that reason, there are differences in how people experience the meditation.
To help you sense it, some people feel a tickle in the throat. Some people feel pressure around their head like they're wearing a sweatband. And some people feel pressure down on their head, like their neck starts to get tight, like it's pushing their head down into their neck. Those are three of the most common ways that people feel this energy. You might also feel some energy in your heart center as well. Okay, now my body's like a brick. I feel very little. So I just do it anyway.
Okay. All right, so here we go. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, Let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth.
When your attention drops, think Om a couple times. Don't meditate on Om. Just think Om a couple times to bring your attention back to the ajna center between the eyebrows. Well, we hope
So
you
that,
enjoyed serving the world.
yeah, that was a wonderful meditation. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'd like to thank our tech crew, John in Montgomery, Alabama, and Cielito in Seattle, Washington. Thanks, guys, for helping out. We'll be back in 2 weeks with Yvonne Lewis to talk about encounters with Maitreya, and please come back. And remember, all of these videos are on the Share International Canada Facebook page. You can watch them again. They're also on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, Message of Hope Weekly. You can see them there as well. So thank you and have a great weekend. Thanks,
Thank you,
Dick, for being
Sabina.
here.
Thank you, Sabina. It's always a pleasure to do this with you.
Yeah, it is.